Mr. Cray, I think it seems as if all great stories, particularly if they span decades and generations, have these defining moments that mark a significant moment in the history that defines what comes thereafter. And you've talked sort of in general terms about some of the big things that happen. If we could maybe get into a little bit more detail about some of those. And these would be moments where maybe something looked like a catastrophe and turned into an opportunity, or something that looked like an opportunity from the very beginning, or even maybe one that went badly. One of the things that comes to mind, and it's come up, is the gluten industry and
Yes.
what had happened, and the story from that. Could you go into a little bit of detail about that?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about it. Wheat gluten was a very important part of our history. It was something that the industry, it was a new product, and we were developing a complete relationship with the baking industry, which is still there, by the way, where wheat gluten was used to expand the volume of baked goods. And we developed that to a great extent. That's why it was such a shame when we lost it, because for 25 years, really, which is a long time for a single product to be the biggest part of a company's business. But that's what really happened, and it was something that was accepted, well, all over the world, really, as something that was quite important.
And this was a politically hot issue as well, which must have brought you into contact with men, for example, Congressman Dan Glickman from Kansas, and
Right.
others. What do you remember about that part of the process?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. When it became obvious that the Europeans were going to take over our business, that's when we developed our relationship with Dan and other people in government to find out what we could do. I mean, we had to let them know our reasons, that really the fact is that the Europeans weren't being exactly honest about what was their position in taking over our business, and so we had to convince the government that we did need help. And that's
So you had our local Congressman Jim Slattery.
Right.
You had Republican Pat Roberts on board.
right.
You got as far as, I guess, the White House and convinced the Clinton administration
That's-
they ought to go to the World Trade Organization and try to stop the Europeans.
We really did. We tried to educate the entire government, as we saw it, in what our problems were, and that somehow or other we needed some help, tariff or otherwise, that would put us on more of an equal basis with these Europeans that were coming in.
But the Europeans were still getting around this, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, there was no doubt that.
And then the administrations changed, and now you've got the Bush administration. You hope they're going to have a sympathetic ear. How did that turn out with them when the administrations changed?
Well, eventually, you got to realize most of what happened was before the Bush administration. It was really in the late 1900s, 1990s, and that was when the government, realizing our problem and really not seeing what we thought would have been the logical way of putting a tariff on or putting something like that. So they decided that in the place of that, they would give us some financial help to develop some alternative businesses. We received a significant part of that help, about $25 million, to develop that business. Obviously, you don't develop alternatives that overnight, and it did give us a chance to really start our ingredients business, start producing specialized starches and proteins, but it took many, many years to really develop those businesses to the extent that they are today. it got us through a difficult period because it gave us financial help to keep going. But it certainly didn't solve our problems.
And do I understand it right? At the time, you were the largest, and there were only like 4 companies that were in the wheat gluten business in
That's
America?
right. That's right.
Wow.
And we were there. Australia was very big in this business, and of course Europe eventually became very big in this business. So, yeah, it was a pretty difficult time.